Okay, everybody, this morning I want to ask you a very direct question. What are you doing instead of building the life you say you want? Because here's what I see constantly. People with massive goals, they talk about the transformation in their body that they want. They talk about building wealth. They talk about creating something meaningful. And then I watch what they actually do with their time. They scroll on social media 3 hours a day. They hit the drive-thru instead of meal prepping. They skip workouts to binge Netflix. And then they wonder why their life hasn't changed. They say they don't have time to work out. Meanwhile, they've spent 365 hours this year on their phone. They say they want to lose weight. Meanwhile, they're spending 120 plus hours per year sitting on the couch. You see, the gap between what people say they want and what they're actually doing is not a time problem. It's a priority problem. And today I'm going to do the math for you. I'm going to show you exactly where your time is going, and I'm going to be brutally honest about what that means for the life you're trying to build. Let's start with a reality check. There are 24 hours in a day. That is 8,760 hours in a year. And here's how most people spend it. Sleep, 8 hours a day. That's normal. That's 2,920 hours per year. Work, 8 hours. That's another 2,080 hours per year if you work 5 days a week. Eating and self-care, around 2 hours a day. That's 728 hours per year. Commuting, we'll call it an hour. That's 365 hours per year. So the total time commitment here is 19 hours per day. That leaves you with 5 hours per day that are genuinely discretionary. That's 76 full days per year. That is enough time to completely transform your life if you use it strategically. But most people don't. They spend those 5 hours on distraction without realizing it, and it's adding up. So let's do the math on what some people do with their time without even thinking about it. The average person spends 3 hours per day on social media and entertainment apps. 3 hours a day. 365 days a year. That's over 1,095 hours per year. That is a full 45 days, people. That's the equivalent of working a full-time job just scrolling on your phone. Now let's compare that to building your dream body. 30 minutes of strength training, 3 to 5 days a week. That's 130 hours per year. That's it. 130 hours to completely transform your body and your life. So the comparison is 1,095 hours scrolling on social media or 130 hours to build the physique you actually say you want. You're spending almost 8.5 more times scrolling than you'd need to actually spend building the body you've been dreaming about. And here's what's wild. You could trade just 30 minutes of your social media time for 30 minutes of training 5 days a week. And in 1 year, you might lose 20 to 30 pounds of fat. You might build 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. You might completely transform your body composition, increase your strength, your energy, better sleep, better mood, better testosterone and sex drive, a completely different life instead of sitting scrolling. It's that simple. Now let's talk about eating. Let's say you hit a drive-thru or a restaurant 4 times a week. Each visit takes about 35 minutes between driving, ordering, eating. So 4 restaurants a week, 35 minutes, that's 140 minutes per week. That's 121 hours per year. That's over 5 days spent in drive-thru lines. You're also spending money. Let's call it $15 per visit on a conservative side. 4 times a week, 52 weeks in a year. That's $3,120 per year on fast food for one person. Now, most of you have 3 to 4 people households. Now let's compare that to meal prep. 1 hour of meal prep a week is 52 hours per year. 52 hours gives you complete control over your nutrition, exact knowledge of what you're eating, $3,000 in savings per year, given you'd still have to buy groceries, but I guarantee you it would cost less than a restaurant. And it leads to faster fat loss, better energy, more education around what your body needs, and food that actually supports your goals. Now, the comparison, 121 hours in a drive-thru line versus 52 hours to meal prep for the entire year. You're spending 2.3 times more time getting fast food that works against your goals than it would take to prepare food that supports them. Most people who say, I don't have time to meal prep, spend that time in drive-thru lines anyway. They're not saving time. They're just wasting that time in a worse way. Let me paint you a picture of 2 people over 1 year. Person A has the distracted life. They spend 3 hours per day on social media. That's 1,095 hours a year. 4 hours per day watching TV. That's 1,460 hours per year. They spend 121 hours in drive-thru lines and at restaurants. They spend 500 hours a year scrolling on social media. They have irregular sleep and no structured training. So the total distraction time there is 3,200 hours per year. So the 1 year result is the body hasn't changed in a positive way, and in all likelihood, it's gotten worse. Also, financial situations haven't improved because they're spending all of their money on food. And they're still saying, I don't have time. They are tired and wondering why they're not happy. Now let's flip the switch to person B with the intentional life. They spend 30 minutes a day scrolling on social media. That's completely reasonable. I'm not going to say it's not because I do it too. So that's 182 hours a year. They spend 1 hour on learning and development. That's 365 hours a year. 1 hour on meal prep per week. That's 52 hours a year. They spend 30 minutes on meditation or journaling. Another 182 hours a year. 2.5 hours training per week. So 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's 130 hours in a year. And they get 7 hours of consistent, deep, good sleep. So the intentional activities are now 912 hours per year. And the 1 year result, they've lost 20 to 30 pounds of body fat. They have gained 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. They've saved $3,000 on fast food. They've developed new skills. They have a new side income started. They have significantly improved energy, mood, better sleep and relationships. Their sex drive is better. Their confidence is higher, and their goals are actually being achieved. So in 1 year, person A wasted 2,288 more hours than person B. Over 10 years, person A will waste nearly 23,000 hours. That is 1,000 full days. And over 10 years, person B will have invested 9,000 plus hours into their growth, enough to become world class at multiple things and completely transform their life. The gap is not talent. The gap is not genetics. The gap is what you choose to do with the 24 hours you are given every single day. But the problem is, to fix this, we have to have brutal self-evaluation. And here's what I want you to understand. You already know what's distracting you. You know you scroll too much. You know the drive-thru is unnecessary. You know the Netflix binge is stealing from your sleep. You know the hours you're scrolling could be spent on your business or in the gym. You know all these things. The problem is not awareness. The problem is you haven't decided that the cost is too high. So do this honestly. I want you to write down what you said you wanted at the beginning of the year before you lost sight of your dreams 8 months ago. Did you want to lose 30 pounds? Did you want to build more muscle? Did you want to start a business? Did you want to get that promotion? Did you want to have more energy, be more confident, go on more date nights with your husband? Did you want to spend more quality time with your kids? Now write down what you actually did this week. Did you go to the gym? How many hours did you spend on social media? Did you eat out or did you meal prep? How much time did you work on your goals? How much quality time did your kids actually get from you without your phone in your hand? Now do the math. How many hours did you spend on the stated goals you said you wanted versus how many hours you spent on distraction? Most people find that they spend 10 times more hours on distraction than on their actual goals. And that's the gap. That's why you haven't achieved what you said you wanted. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot have a great life and a distracted life at the same time. You have to choose. Option 1 is the comfortable distracted life. Netflix every night, drive-thrus when you feel unmotivated to cook, social media without time limits, moderate body, moderate career, moderate everything subpar in your life, and constant low-grade dissatisfaction with where you are. Option B is the intentional, powerful life. A structured schedule, strategic entertainment, not mindless, intentional nutrition, 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week, which leads to a strong body, an advancing career, meaningful progress, and consistent growth. You cannot have both. So my question is, which life do you actually want? If you want the comfortable, distracted life, then stop pretending you want greatness. Stop lying to yourself about your goals. But if you want a great life, you need to make the decision. What are you willing to give up? Not what are you willing to add, what are you willing to eliminate? Cut social media to 30 minutes a day. That reclaims 1,000 hours per year. Cut drive-through visits. That reclaims 121 hours and saves you $3,000. Cut mindless TV. That reclaims 1,000 hours per year. Suddenly, you have 2,500 hours a year to spend on things that actually matter. That's your entire life transformation right there. So starting today, here's what I need you to do. Number 1, you need to do an honest audit of your life. Write down where your time goes. Don't judge, just observe. Step 2, identify your biggest drain. What took most of your time this week, and is that thing moving you towards your goals? Step 3, eliminate or replace just one thing. Pick the biggest drain, decide right now that you're eliminating it or you're replacing some of it with something intentional. Step 4, reallocate those hours. The hours you free up go directly to your goals. If you cut 3 hours of social media per day, you have 21 hours per week. You could train 2.5 hours, meal prep 1 hour, sleep an extra hour every night, work on your business 5 hours per week. That's a completely different life in 1 week. So here's the truth about all of this. Nobody is forcing you to be distracted. Every single day, hundreds of times per day, you are choosing distraction over progress. And that's your right, but you don't get to make that choice and then complain that you don't have time. You don't get to complain that your body hasn't changed. Your life is exactly what you're building it to be with your choices. The great news is you can change your choices starting today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not on January 1st, but today. One day won't change your life, but one day can start the momentum that will. And the person you become in 1 year is determined by your choices you make today. So you need to ask yourself right now, what's one distraction I'm willing to eliminate this week? Just one. That's where the change is going to start. You've got this.